Hi, my name is Kevin McDonald, and I'm declaring my independence. Independence from what? Why, negative thoughts and energy, of course. Chief among them, hate, division, and fear. You see, I know that we're all one, and together we can solve any problem, save our planet and each other. Please, join me as we come together as one and choose a better way to be. So now, let's begin with my independence report. I need to do this, and welcome to everybody to my independence report. I got a shout out to Tracy Lamore. She is the publicist who brings me all these really, really cool and interesting people. And I'm very excited today because we've got a great gal here. Her name is Jane McCormick. She is what I term as a master businesswoman. And she's a real good example for anybody that wants to get into business, especially women that would like to make a difference in the world. And so Tracy brought her here. I don't know when Tracy sleeps, and I also don't know when Jane sleeps. So Jane, welcome to the podcast. How are you?
I'm doing well, thanks, Kevin. How are you?
I'm dandy, thank you. It's a beautiful day, and it's Friday, which means it means that it's Friday for me because I work on Saturday. I assume you work on Saturdays and Sundays.
I do. Friday is just another day, but there's something about it that makes it exciting. But yeah.
Everybody else has an exciting time because you're just planning what you're going to do on Saturday and Sunday. So let's talk about, I don't know, let's talk about you. How did you get started in the business world, and what was your passion and what was your motivation to do all the things? And we'll go through this, ladies and gentlemen, as we go. You'll be amazed at how many businesses she works with, how many businesses she consults with. She works with a couple of nonprofits. She's got a festival in London that involves the Beatles that we have to talk about. So she does all kinds of stuff. But what's your passion? Where did you get started?
Well, that's a good question. I actually got started really young. My dad started me off. He decided when I was, I think, 9, that it would be a good idea to get me right into the business world. So with a pretty much registered loan from him, I bought a little delivery company and delivered TV guides. And he made me keep an entire set of books and records, complete with accounts receivable. And I had a great time doing it. And then at the end, when I was about 11, I sold it to somebody else. I made $40 in 1972. Was so excited. So I literally started in business when I was basically the same time as I was learning how to do simple math and read and stuff. So
your dad must have been pretty special to get you started that early, that he wanted you to, instead of play with dolls and stuff, to really attack the business world. What's his background?
he's a CA, or was a CA, and so of course he just wanted to make sure that we all had a really good grounding in the business world and we understood it. He did also want me to play with dolls and ride my bike and do all the normal things. So it's not like I was chained to a desk forced to keep a set of records. But I had a ledger book, like one of those old-fashioned ones with all the columns in, that I had to write in every day.
And then when you were right about the age of 15, you re-entered the business world, didn't you?
I did, yes. At that point, we had a T-shirt company, and we sold. Started off in the basement. Started off selling shirts to festivals. What they used to call Jesus festivals were really big at the time. So every year
I remember those.
You remember those? They were awesome, and we'd be the ones with the T-shirt booth making the shirts that we sold to people. And then we moved into rock star T-shirts. That was cool. And then again, I sold that when I was about 18 to some friends who wanted to carry it on.
Oh, and did you make a profit out of that one too?
I did. Yes. Yes. I can't remember how much though, but
That's so you got started with what did you have, like itchy feet that you wanted to keep on moving forward to do different things?
I just found it fun. Yeah. It wasn't good heavens ever about the money because at the time that was minimal. But there was just something exciting about having a project and making it grow and making it into something neat. And then eventually also in moving it on to somebody else.
And then you went to college. Is that the next step?
Yeah, essentially. There's probably a few things in between there, but eventually I made my way to college in business. Yeah. And came out of that and started what was first a bookkeeping company,
What degree did you get?
business administration.
Ah, that works for being in business and
Yeah.
administering the business and stuff.
Amazing how those things go together. Yeah.
Yeah, it really is, and it's interesting because you started a company and you were doing. I'm sorry, you were doing what again? I lost that.
It was a bookkeeping
Oh,
company.
that's right. That's right.
Yeah. Now, before that, I was also a professional photographer, but then I went back to school for business and did that. Um, it would have been probably more successful as a professional photographer if I'd done the business thing first. But
Well, that's okay because you have an eye for photographs, and some of the best photographers I know, like Linda McCartney, had no training at all. She just had a natural aptitude for it.
yeah.
Yeah. So you started a bookkeeping company, and where did that take you?
Hmm. Well, it kind of just grew, so that I ended up going back and taking more intense courses in technical things, network administration, and that sort of thing, and learning a little bit of um, basic programming and uh, because it was just a matter of how do we best support the people that are coming to us. And at the time, I'm aging myself here, but at the time, computers in business were just becoming a thing, and people were starting to get on board, and they didn't know how to use them, and they didn't know how to install their programs. So just doing their bookkeeping wasn't really supporting them enough. So we kind of learned all of these other things as well. And yeah, sorry.
During the time that you were growing up and then getting into business, the changes that have happened in the business world and the bookkeeping world and how you keep records and how you communicate and all of these things have changed so much. You've had to really keep up with the times and keep learning and keep progressing, haven't you?
You do. Yeah. In order to be successful, I have to, even now, I'm continuing to learn new programs and learn new things about web applications and things that I didn't ever think I would need to know because they didn't exist. But it's all important, but it also keeps your mind fresh and keeps you going.
Keeps you young, keeps you moving on. And you've also worked as you've now risen to another level. You're now like CFO of a particular company, and you're also the CFO of the charity. Tell us about the charity you're working with.
Help Heal Humanity is the name of the charity, and it was started by a super dynamic and very exciting person, Serena Buffalino. She has the most fascinating backstory. She started off just deciding as a special needs teacher that she and her students were going to build a school in Haiti after the earthquake all
Oh
those years
wow.
ago. And sure enough, just, essentially with bake sales and support like that, they actually did end up building that school. So that was kind of the root of it all. Um, and since then, she's gotten together with myself and a few other people with different skills and different ideas, different areas of the world that we've also been looking at and servicing. And we formed a charity that combines all of our skill sets and lets us be more able to help people in more different places.
Where do you see that work going? What's the mission?
The mission is predominantly education. So, there's a lot of backstory with that, but essentially, what we all know when it comes to developing countries is that education, particularly education of girls and women, is a key to allowing that country to develop. And there's many, many different reasons for that. So a lot of the countries that we look at, Haiti is really where we have predominantly the most influence at the moment. Um, that education isn't available. It's not there. So we're helping to find opportunities for these kids to go to school and become educated right through, we're hoping eventually to go through from elementary school all the way through to trade schools or business schools and that sort of thing. And at the moment, the school is up to grade 8, but we'd like to see it build.
Wow, that is truly impressive, because the lack of education in our world, especially amongst young girls and women, is profound. And these people need to have the opportunity to be able to become who they really are. And I think it's wonderful that you're helping them out to do that, because they wouldn't get that opportunity any other way.
Yeah, and certainly there are a lot of people on the planet who see this, and that's fantastic. So by helping it build, we know that within a developing country, if you have strongly educated women, you have um, a better standard of living for everybody. You have less complications when it comes to uh, prenatal support. You have children who aren't as worried about nutrition because their parents, being educated, want to educate the children as well, and they understand nutrition and that sort of thing. So, in addition to that, we're finding food insecurity in these areas is an issue as well. So, we're trying to address at the same time feeding programs and assistance in helping the families eat so that their kids can be free to go to school as well.
It's amazing how something as simple as being able to eat can affect everybody's lives in a positive way. And so education is key to getting that done. But I want to segue that into a little bit about something that just struck me, because you have been growing in the business community here in the United States since the 1980-ish, somewheres in there. And for women, it has been a struggle to reach the types of positions that you have. Have you found that to be true? Is it harder? Is it harder for women to rise up than it is for men?
I think it was, and maybe still is. It's difficult for me to say from where I am now whether it's still the case, but I think it was. I think it had more challenges. Even now, for example, right now I'm the CEO of an industrial tool company, so very much in a man's world in a lot of ways. And as recently as last year, during a meeting with some of our suppliers, I had somebody call me a good girl. Uh, I had somebody else say, "So, oh, we're talking about torquing now, so it's okay if you don't understand." Uh,
I imagine that supplier wished they hadn't said that.
well, I can't really be antagonistic with these things. You can't really my responding in any way other than with graciousness and kindness is just going to make somebody upset and defensive because from their point of view, they are being kind and polite and friendly, and it's difficult for them to manage too. There's a lot of older people older like me in this world. So I've learned that the best way to deal with these sorts of things is not to become adversarial, but instead just to show that you know what you're doing. And maybe that is a little bit of a handicap because maybe men at the time don't need to actually have to prove that first in some areas. But at the end of the day, it just works out better for everybody.
I used to work for a chicken company out of Siloam Springs, Arkansas. And so I spent a great deal of time in the South. And it's different down there. They got a whole different structure of what they think the male female relationship deal should be like, if you know what I mean. And they make it, they can make it, I distinctly remember that as the business went, women were great secretaries. They could figure out the transportation and the logistics of transportation, but they couldn't be salespeople. They couldn't be division heads. They couldn't be any of the things that we take males take for granted. And so there wasn't one. There were secretaries, but there wasn't one woman who sat in the boardroom, if you will. And I thought that was rather peculiar at the time. But it's because I'm from Seattle and it's a little bit more progressive up here. But it was weird that they took that attitude, and to my understanding, they still do have that attitude down there just a bit. And I hope that they'll get out of that because they're missing a huge resource.
Yeah, I agree with you there. You're basically writing off half of the population and half of the talent that could be available to you.
Well, and especially some of the most hard-working, smart, and intelligent business people I've ever been around just happen to be women. They make great managers. They make great leaders of people, and it's I mean now not all, but every it's just like men. There are some men who still have their knuckles dragging on the ground, and they should not be in places of leadership of other men and other people. And but there are other people that are more enlightened that can really make a difference in the world. And so I think that should be more gender neutral, don't you?
I do. I do agree with you there. I mean, I guess psychologically, obviously, there are differences between men and women in the way that they think, and how much of that is nurture and how much of it is nature. That's still up for grabs and debate. But overall, it seems that you find that the people who rise to leadership positions are the ones that are good at being leaders, whether they're men or women. It's not really that relevant.
That's true. And Kayla May, who's listening in, says some people don't think before they speak most of the time and can make situations very difficult. And that's true. It's like you're a CEO of a tool company, and a guy comes in and says, "Well, darling, how are you? It's nice to see you. Here's a wrench. Do you know what this is? We sell these things." Yeah, I can't imagine that somebody would do that, but I'm sure it happens.
Mhm. It does.
Well, I
They'll
also
they'll tell me how they take their coffee, basically, is
you must have thick skin and a wonderful way about you to be able to just kind of laugh that stuff off.
Well, I don't think it comes from a place of meanness. I think it comes from a place of just the way people were raised and what their own understanding of the world is. And I don't think it's up to me to parent them and,
Good point. They're non-parentable at this point.
non-parental at this stage, exactly. But, if I can just kind of let it roll off and continue on with business, I think it just makes for a much more comfortable and productive sort of environment anyway. So I if I thought somebody was being intentionally spiteful, I might be a little different in my manner, but when I know it's their version of courtesy, when they say things like "hello, little lady," and that and that sort of thing, they don't mean to be demeaning. They are, but they don't mean to be. So, you know, you just have to let it roll off or you'd never get anything done. I'd be constantly furious.
I can only imagine. I can only imagine. Because now let's talk about the one thing that I don't understand, and I'm hopeful that you can explain it to me. Why is there still a wage disparity between men and women? Like three-quarters of a woman makes three-quarters of what a man makes. Why is that? That should not be.
It shouldn't be. I think there's so many different reasons for that, though. And in some areas, we're finding that that gap is closing quite rapidly. Here in Canada, I think there's that gap is almost negligible. What we find more, and it's the same sort of thing, is that the positions that get paid the most are being held still predominantly by middle-aged white men. So, and that's where the disparity comes in really here, and probably Seattle is being more progressive like Canada is. You probably see more of that than you do an actual wage disparity. Um, I think women are somewhat less aggressive in demanding what they think should be their due, more likely to kind of sit back and wait for someone to offer more money. And a lot of businesses don't do that, but we're learning. We're learning how to say, no, this is what I'm worth, pay me or I'm walking.
Yeah, that's
But that has to be there too. So,
Well, and I and I also have never understood the concept of, man, he's a go-getter. He's a hard charging man. He doesn't put up with any bull crap at all. He's my hero. She's a hard charging woman, and boy, what a bitch. And yet
Exactly.
I
Yes.
don't understand that concept because the business people are business people. And if you are successful, that means you're getting results. If you're getting results, you can't put up with a lot of crap and be somebody's mother. You expect them to do a job that they're paid to do. And it's your job to make sure that happens, right?
It's true. But you're you're absolutely right. If a man says something in a certain way, they're being demanding or they're being aggressive. But if a woman says it, they're being shrill. And
Yep,
yeah.
it's like they're taming of the shrew, kind of,
Exactly.
yeah. It doesn't work. And Kayla says she agrees. We all should be treated equal, no matter if we're male or female. Both sides are intelligent in their own unique ways, which is true, which is true. And I'm so glad that we're having this discussion because there are women. Can you give the women that are listening out there that are going in for a job interview and they're qualified for the job, they can do it, they want to hire them? How do they negotiate for salary?
Hmm. That's an interesting one. I think you have to go into a circumstance and know what your worth is. It's not going to work because we're not men. Women are not men. Men do not perceive us as men. If we try and behave like men, it comes off being very strange. So the years of the power suits and the I'm as good as any man kind of thing is really just another way of saying I don't think I really am. Men are better, otherwise I wouldn't try to be like them. So you have to be you. You have to be the person you are, the woman you are, and know that you are worth whatever it is that you're looking to get. And you just say, "This is my offer." Don't be demanding, don't be aggressive, don't be adversarial. Just be certain, be confident that this is what I'm worth, this is what people pay me. It's okay if you can't pay me that because there are other people that are waiting for me to go and interview with them.
That is a supreme place of power to be. It's like, hey, I'd love to work for you, but this is what it's going to cost you, and this is what I can do for you, and this is the productivity you're going to get, and this is how I'm going to help your company grow. And if you don't see the value in that, well, then I guess that's between you and yourself. But there's this other guy down here that is willing to do just that, and so it's totally up to you. And I guess you throw it back on them because if you're confident in who you are and your abilities, even as a young person, if you're confident in who you are and what you can create for somebody, you take that as a real positive for yourself, and you use that as a foundation of who you really are, right?
That's right. I mean, there has to be some realism there. It
Right.
doesn't hurt to check out before you go to a job interview. There are many places you can find out in the city of Seattle. This is what a X type of position is making on average. And make sure you know that first so you don't go in saying that you're worth $60,000 when the job is usually paying 40. But with that in mind, you know what you're worth.
Yeah,
That's
and I was talking with somebody, or it was on YouTube or something. I don't know where I saw it, but it struck me that a lady was she found out that her counterpart that did the exact same job was making 25% more than she was.
wow.
She went to the boss and she said, "Now, why is this that he's making more than 25% more than I am?" And the boss's response was, "Well, do you have a family?" "No, I'm a single woman." "He's got a family. So I need to pay him more because he's got a family, he's got kids to take care of." And it's like, why is that my business? I should be paid exactly the same. But there is still that perception out there. At least there was. I hope it's going away.
I hope it's going away too, but it is there. And as a woman who is supporting or has supported a family as well, I'm not really sure how that should be relevant anyway. Like in, whether I'm interested in what his answer would have been if that guy had also been a single man, because I don't think the wage disparity would necessarily have been different if the man was single.
Right. Well, but then comes in the, well, you might get pregnant and then you're going to have to take the leave and then I'm going to lose that, and so I'm going to pay you less just to, I don't know.
I don't.
We think rather strange things as employers, and I think it's all should be based on productivity and what you can do, because I know some women that are just incredibly driven and work really really hard at what they do, and they're awesome at it. And one of them is sitting right over there. And she works for all kinds of different people. And tell me about the London Beatles thing. I'm really excited. I'm really excited to hear about that.
Oh, what an awesome thing that was. So it came about. My brother has been a long-term Beatles fan, and he always wanted to put on a Beatles festival. That was his thing. And unfortunately, right about the time that he got together with some friends, he got really ill. He had cancer, and he's
Oh,
recovered now. But um, it was just we didn't know whether or not he was going to recover. And his friend Paul went to him and said, "What can we do? What's the one thing?" And he said, "I want you to have a Beatles festival. I want to be part of it. I'm going to get better and I'm going to be part of it." So they roped me in because um, it seems to happen quite a lot, actually, as kind of a side issue. I take a look at all of these people, and they're like the wonderful balloons floating around the sky with all of the ideas, and they're pretty and they're glittery and they're excited and they're so much fun. And I'm the bag of sand at the bottom of the string that holds them all on the table. So, so they brought me into that to see if we could sort of keep it. And lo and behold, we actually got a little bit of government financing to do it, and it was a Beatles tribute festival. It was so much fun. I think the province came back to us afterwards and told us that we had made them about $325,000 in as a result of what we did for the city. But we actually closed off 4 blocks of downtown London, Ontario, which is not a huge place. I think it's got about 350,000 people, so it's a mid-size city. And we had, I think, 13 stages, and we had tribute bands all over the place and people dancing in the streets. It was just a panic. And I saw absolutely none of it because I was sitting in this tiny little office trying to juggle 16,000 plates while the whole thing was going on. I actually made it to one event, and it was the last event of the weekend. But
oh, that is so sad. But you're right that everybody's got highfalutin ideas and thoughts and how we're going to do this, but somebody's got to be able to write the checks and balance the checkbook and make sure the money's coming in and everybody's getting paid and the food vendors are taken care of. And I imagine that was a great big deal for you to put all that together.
it was, but the best part when I went to that one show that I got to and I saw the people, it was a Paul McCartney act, and they're just super talented guys. They didn't dress up like Paul McCartney. They just covered the music. And I was looking at the crowd and they were so happy. Everybody was so happy. And I thought I had a part of that. I created that. And that just made the whole thing worthwhile. So we did it again the next year, and then COVID. So
Well,
um,
hopefully, when COVID goes away in, I don't know, 10 or 20 years, I have no idea.
exactly. Yeah, can't plan anything right now because we don't know. We were kind of hoping we'd be able to do something this fall, but there's just no way to know right now.
They keep coming up with another ugly stepsister of the original virus that is, this one's really bad and this one, so I don't know. We'll have
I
to.
know. Yeah, there's always a new variants of concern is the thing right now.
Yep. Now, are you guys still wearing masks up there in where you are?
Are. I'm actually in my office right now, and I have a door that closes, and I'm here by myself, so I'm permitted to sit at my desk without my mask on. If I get up to move around the building, I have to put my mask on to move around the building. So pretty much anybody in a building who can't stay 2 meters apart has to wear a mask at all times. How about you guys?
We're still masked. They're talking about in a couple of weeks lifting the mask mandate, but we have this new variant from India that they're
Hmm.
talking about, and we don't know what that's going to do, or and 70% of us in where I'm at are now vaccinated, but I it hasn't been around very long. We're gonna have to wait and see how long the vaccinations last and all that stuff, because they don't know that they know that.
Nobody knows. How about you, Kevin? Are you vaccinated?
I are. I did, and it wasn't pleasant. It was not. I had symptoms for a day or two, but you got to do your part. How about you?
Okay. I can't, unfortunately, without getting
Oh,
into too much detail. I have health issues that prevent me from having either of the two types of vaccines at the moment. But
well, but what's interesting about that is that I'm now you're out in the public and you're out everywhere. I'm really not, because I have the studios in my house, and I do 10 or so podcasts a week, and then I have others that I'm in different stages of putting them together and that kind of thing. So I really don't get out that much. I get to see people like you, which satisfies my need to get out. But it's I think everything is, and tell me if you agree with this, and in your world, if this is the way I think everything is going to be operating in a much more remote fashion, and we're not going to be able, like in the businesses that I've been in, they used to have conventions where we would all get together and we'd have team building exercises, and I think those sorts of things are going to all become virtual and remote, and a lot of people are going to be working from their homes and stuff rather than going into work. What do you think? What's your sense of what's coming?
I think you're right in a lot of ways. People are kind of craving that person to person contact, but I think they're more likely to get that from their close friends and family once things are opened up and people are allowed to meet more, because the advantages that we have realized by being remote like this, like for example, I can appear on a show like this in Seattle when I'm in Ontario, Canada, and I know this is something that you've been doing for a while, but you take that to organizations that aren't used to that sort of thing. Back to Help Heal Humanity, we have a board in Spain and we have a board in the US and a board in Canada, and we can all meet together. And
Right.
in the US, our board, one is in California and one is in Maryland and a couple are in Chicago. And so they all meet together regularly and can do things together to better the charity without having to fly anywhere. It's become really productive to be able to do this. So I don't see that changing. I've one of the really nice ladies that I know through Rotary Club. Look at me being nice ladies. Oh dear, after our last conversation. She attends church services in London, England, because she can, because they're
Right.
live streaming. So she can go to whatever service she wants to anywhere she likes. So that sort of thing I think is going to keep happening.
I agree with you, and by the way, I think it's a lot more fiscally responsible and productive. I was, and I'll bet you that I'm the only one of these you've ever met. I was a traveling chicken salesman.
Yes, you're right.
So I worked for the company out of Arkansas, and I was a national sales manager and I traveled around the country selling chicken, and so it every time I traveled, it for some odd reason it was between $1,000 and $1,500 a week just to get me where I wanted to go.
Hmm.
To the city I was going to be at and to stay there. And if I didn't have any sales or anything productive, then it was like down the drain. But that's how business worked, is you had to get in front of the customer, you had to build a relationship, you had to do all of those things. I think that virtually, and then every year I had to go to Siloam Springs, Arkansas, for 2 weeks, and in a city of 8,000, sit in the Motel 6 having room service from McDonald's, and that was just not really. I can spend my time more productively than that, and I think people are finding that to be the case.
I think you're right. There are downsides to the whole thing too, and one of them is that we're all tending to look a little bit like our high school yearbook pictures. With up here, we can't get in to get our hair done or anything like that. So
Exactly.
um, it would be nice to be. I think there's a good balance, but I think you're right. Once things are opened up and people are able to do things, there will be a lot more that will continue from COVID, from what we've learned about productivity and meetings too. It's like there's two sides to it. Everybody thinks now we can have a meeting every 5 minutes because it's so easy, but at the same time, we can click that little red button and leave the meeting and just, oh well, I've got a hard stop in 5 minutes. Sorry, another meeting to run to, and shut it off and go. So once people adapt, I think it will work better.
Now, you've been through the wars. By the way, we're talking with Jane McCormick. She is a master, what I term as a master businesswoman, because she's been doing so much. She's a CFO of some companies. She's a consultant in others. She's a CEO of a mechanic. See, my son, he's a diesel mechanic, and he has a tool fetish. And so he loves tools and he loves to buy tools, which keeps him constantly poor. But there's always some reason to buy tools. And you're in that world and you're in all kinds of different worlds. But I'd like you to address for a minute a young woman coming up into the business world. What would you advise her to do or not to do?
I would advise her primarily to focus on the one or two things that she's really the most interested in. So, coming into business, pick the area that you are the most fascinated with and really focus in, not necessarily just to specialize, and to not let anybody stand in your way. Approach it with confidence, get the education that you need. Don't ever try to fake that you know more than you do, but once you know it, make sure that people know that you know it. um, don't let stereotypes stand in your way of success, and you can't mandate people. You can't mandate lack of stupidity. You're going to run into people who just are simply stuck in a way with ideas that you're not going to be able to change. So don't try to change them. Just be who you are, and if they can't accept that, that's on them.
I love the concept of the older white man getting old and then retiring, because I think that when he retires, there's an evolution going on, and younger people do not have the same stereotypical attitudes about sex and about women and all that stuff that the older guys do, because that's what they knew growing up, and their dads were the same way and their grandpas were the same way. Well, the kids today, I believe, are changing. They're a lot more understanding of differences in people, different people of different colors, different sexual persuasions, all of that. I think that they, quite frankly, in many cases, I don't think they give a damn about any of that stuff. I think they give more about the individual and what the individual can do. At least that's my opinion. What do you think?
No, I think you're absolutely right. You see it a lot more. Um, Race is getting a lot less important. Orientation is getting a lot less important. The kids don't care. They just don't care. It's who you are, where your heart is, what your skills are. Those are the important things, to other kids. They just don't see the barriers like we used to have.
I was listening to a conversation by two teenage girls that were. I used to be a bus driver before I did this, and then I drove bus for 11 years after the chicken deal, and after the broadcast deal, and they were sitting on the bus and they were talking about their potential boyfriends, and one hadn't met one of the others, and she said, "Well, what is he?" And she said, "Well, he's Filipino and Asian and Mexican and white and stuff." And she go, "Oh, good. What's his complexion like?" And so they got a whole different attitude about coming from different places. And I don't know how it is in Canada, but I'll tell you, in the United States, there is a mass blending of colors of blended families. There are many more white and black couples that are getting together and having kids, and those kids can range in color from being white to being very dark, but it doesn't matter. You can have brothers and sisters. So the whole thing is this whole thing is changing, which is, by the way, causing some of the fear of some of the traditional older white folks that are scared of the change that's a coming.
Yeah, I agree there. I don't know if you can see the calendar behind me on the wall. That's my mom in the middle there, the white one, and my sister-in-law and my nieces in the background there. Our family is actually quite multiracial. Four of my kids are Asian, and another three are actually black. And so it's been a different position for us in a way, because we were never really raised with those sorts of values. Um, but we're seeing it more and more now, that the differences just don't matter and skin color is less important. Although, in honesty, there seems in the last few years to have been a push back towards that sort of identify yourself in these ever increasingly narrower groups. And I think that seems to be hurting more than it's helping when it comes to this sort of blending that we would maybe, coming from our position as older white people, maybe we don't understand why this is happening, but it seems to be moving backwards instead of forwards in some ways.
It's I really think it's because of the fear of the change and the fear that they want to keep it the way it always has been. But there's nothing wrong with change. And I can tell you, I can tell you the white families that I know in my country don't produce like the ethnic families do, and folks of color, because they'll have 4 or 5 or 6 kids, and my white friends will have like one, maybe two. And so gradually it's the whole demographics are going to change, and that's why they're trying to stop voting and do all sorts of weird things here. But that's a political discussion. I did want to make an observation, though. You are so busy doing so many things, you haven't got time to decorate your office.
Oh, I know. Well, it's funny. The only thing I have is this calendar stuck on the wall with a thumbtack. But actually, we just put in all of these new walls. They're modular walls to build some of the areas in. And that only happened a week or so ago. So no, I haven't had time to do anything, put up any artwork or anything at all.
But it doesn't matter, because you're highly successful doing a whole bunch of different things, and
I'll have time one day. Maybe I'll find some of my photographs. The only reason that's there, that's a calendar I made for my mom, and I made a copy for myself that has all of the grandkids in it. So that's yeah.
Sure. And and more than likely it'll be a Sunday afternoon when you're supposed to be home, and then you'll be here decorating your office.
Oh, probably. When else would you do it?
Now, you work a lot? Do you consider yourself a workaholic, or are you trying to stay balanced?
Hmm. Um, that's a hard question. I don't want to think I'm a workaholic. I think evidence would suggest maybe that's not true, that I am a workaholic. But I've never been a big proponent of the idea of a work-life balance. For me, work is part of life, and it's part of, as long as you're doing within the work that you're doing the things that you want to do, then it's just part of your life. It's when it becomes a chore or a task or something that you really don't want to do, and all you want to do is escape from it when you're not doing it. I think that's far more of a problem. That's the way I rationalize it to myself anyway.
Well, and the other thing is, if you're passionate about what you do, and you love what you do, and you love the people that you're working with, and the results that you're getting, and the difference that you're making in the world, that's a wholly different thing than if you were sitting, in a cubicle 70 hours a week, because you're going here, you're doing this, you're going and doing all this other stuff, and it really is great. I really am hopeful that the The nonprofit does really, really well. And I'm sorry, its name again is?
Help Heal Humanity.
I love that. It's Help Heal Humanity. If someone would like to donate or to find out more about your group, how do they do that?
They could go online to helphealhumanity.org. And we've got a really nice website with all the things that we're doing. And of course, the opportunity to donate, to sponsor a child, or just to donate to one of the projects that we're doing.
Which is just awesome. And you're working in Haiti a lot. Are you planning on expanding past Haiti to Africa or some other parts of the world?
Yeah, we have had plans that unfortunately COVID has kind of put a lid on right now.
Yeah.
So what we did for the last year and a half or so, we've maintained our programs in Haiti, and we have a small program in Cambodia. Um, but we have turned a lot of our efforts into addressing food insecurity here in more locally. So, for example, we were privileged to be able to disperse 10,000 meals on what day was that? Day before yesterday, whatever day that was. I'm not good at days.
They kind of blend into each other,
They
don't they?
do, yeah. So, a few of us in a refrigerator truck went and picked up some skids of food, and we drove around and delivered them to shelters who would then disperse them to people in need. So we've been working with chefs, one in particular, Chef Jagger Gordon, who I'm just going to give a little tiny shout out to because he's awesome. And he in
Please.
his kitchen made all of the food and continues to make thousands and thousands of meals every day to help address food insecurity here in Ontario, in Toronto especially. So we're happy to take some of those off his hands and distribute them around. Um, but that's become very important. We haven't been able to travel. Our CEO, Serena, did manage to make one trip to Haiti this year, but I think as things again start to open up, we've got a small project starting in Nicaragua this year in the fall, and we'll open up with everything else and continue our projects as we go.
Well, I wish you much success, and please enjoy yourself and enjoy your time and enjoy your family, and it's been great having you here. I really appreciate it. I'm glad Tracy brought us together.
I am too. It was a lot of fun. I don't know if I actually said anything new and exciting, but
You were awesome. You were awesome, and there are some women in the audience that are taking notes because they would love to be in your position in 20 years. But and it takes, as you will tell them, it takes a lot of hard work, some luck, but a lot of hard work, education, and a strong desire to make it work.
absolutely.
And even when you fail or you perceive yourself to have failed, you keep going.
Keep trying. Yep.
The
Yeah.
only way it works. And so, what I like to do at the end of our interviews is I'm going to give you the opportunity to talk to my audience and say anything that you would like.
Okay. Well, uh, I'm going to talk a little bit about success in business then post COVID very quickly. I think what we all have to understand is at the moment we're all startups, and for everybody, men and women both, going into business as entrepreneurs or even larger businesses, we have to look at things in an iterative process. Everything is new. Try things. If they don't work, don't worry about it. Tweak it, try it again until you find what is working for you.
That is sound and sage advice from someone who who's really plugged in, because you're sitting on the board of. We didn't discuss this yet. How many boards are you sitting on?
Uh, 6? I'm gonna say 6.
That's a good answer. It might be 7, it might be 8, it might be 5, but who knows? But you're sitting in the boardroom of a lot of places, and you're making a difference in the world. And for that, you should be congratulated, and you should be very proud. And I hope your kids and your grandkids are very proud of you.
Thank you.
Although you're not old enough to have grandkids, I wouldn't imagine.
I don't have to tell you because I'm aging myself again, but it's my oldest grandson's 18th birthday this year.
Holy mackerel.
I know, now I feel old. But like I said to my husband, it's not being a grandmother that bothers me. It's being married to a grandfather.
Oh, well said. Well said. So that's really cool. So we've been talking with Jane McCormick. She's a master business person in Canada, and she's sitting on the board of 6 different companies. She works with a nonprofit. She's just does wonderful work, and I want to thank you very much for being here today.
Thank you, Kevin. It was a lot of fun.
Very good. And I've got one thing I got to do, and then I'll be right back to you. So don't go anywhere. Hey, and thanks for listening to this episode all the way to the end. Hey, pretty cool. Hey, don't forget to follow us so you can receive regular updates and new posts. And remember, take care of each other because each other's all we got. See you next time on My Independence Report.